This is the place where I died. In the Necropolis. In Lourosa. You want to know how that turned out to be? Stick around. In a previous episode, you saw me dive deep into the history of this particular spot in Lourosa, Portugal, and how I think that its stonework might be the key to a lost age of megalithism, drenched in a culture that had cosmic rituals to connect this realm to a different one. Step 6. Rooting myself into its ancient history. Complete. Some of you might have noticed that I rarely use music in my stories. That is because in this world of oversaturation, I want you to feel that what I am doing is the real thing, just the bare bones. And now that the drum has become my companion, it has been reminding me of performance and the sacred role that is given to the one who is telling the story. So I started organizing ritual story evenings in the local park. Just a word, the drum, the sharing of food, and everyone who feels the calling to receive and share. It truly is a return to the elements that bind a community, the word and the rhythm. But if you feel that this role is something to be taken lightly, think again. Because if you start breathing life into stories with a sacred drum, you might just get pulled into a story yourself. And nowhere had I ever thought that that would require me to sacrifice my life. It was the middle of summer when the sleepy town of Lourosa awoke from its slumber. The streets, usually quiet, were suddenly alive with motion. Hands hanging flags from every window, voices calling out, laughter bouncing off the old stone walls. They were preparing for the annual feast, a celebration steeped in medieval splendor. People dressed in tunics and crowns, in armor and linen, selling anything from succulents to sausage meat. Children playing games that belonged to another age. It was as though the town had suddenly remembered something ancient, some root buried deep beneath its pavement, and was now drawing life from it again. I was mesmerized. You should know that there have been moments in my life, moments of deep spiritual meaning, always marked by the presence of predator birds. Perhaps I'll tell those stories one day. For now, I simply knew them as magnificent beings, ancient symbols of sight and spirit. Little did I know as I stepped into the festivities that this would be another of those moments, another initiation. My offering to the world is to create stories, films, and experiences that carry the meaning of a larger paradigm shift. Each piece I share is a part of a larger vision that I'm nurturing, and I welcome anyone who is along for the ride. If my work nourishes you, here is a way to reciprocate. There is a bowl at the center of this path, a place where you can offer something in return. Every contribution helps the vision grow. That vision is in harmony of sustainability. So, I will not be eating your gift. It will go towards the internet bill, fuel cost, and anything else to keep this channel up and running. And any gift of any size is received with gratitude and care. So I thank you. And now, let's continue with the episode. I had always loved theatrical parades ever since I was a child, but now it felt as if fragments of the past had awakened, coming together to form the dream that Lourosa had become for me. There were acrobats, bright figures twisting objects through the air as if they were made of sunlight and laughter. Then there were the troubadours, whose tunes and singing would render me drunk with music. There was sword fighting, blades flashing in the light, locked in a dance between strength and cunning. Magnificent horses roamed the streets. The ground trembled beneath their hooves as the earth had done for many centuries before. And then there were the birds, hawks, falcons, owls, their gaze piercing, unblinking. They watched the crowd, ever present, yet calm, and I felt that familiar stirring again, as if the great spirit of nature herself had turned her eyes upon me once more. Next came the snakes, gliding and coiling like ribbons of living night, their eccentric handler basking in their strange magnetic power. And then there was the belly dancer, wrapped in silk and shimmering pendants. Her body moved like fire and water at the same time. And finally, the actors, the keepers of historical spirit. They wore the faces of tyrants, peasants, lovers, and fools. Through them the stories of the past lived again, as if the town itself had taken a breath and began to speak. And as the evening fell, a full moon rose above the rooftops. Crowds gathered. A spectacle was about to unfold. A story about the Inquisition, the corrupt spiritual dominion of a lost decade, punishing the poor, the pagan, and the magical on this ancient, sacred ground. And if that were not cathartic enough, a final sacrifice was called for. Someone from the crowd was chosen, an outsider. Me. 2 other men were picked to hold me steady as I was supposed to be executed in the most inefficient way possible. The first shot struck the captor on my right, the second, the one on my left. And then, as the third shot rang out, I flung across the floor of the ancient Necropolis, just as the Inquisitor had ordered. And as 3 innocent murdered men lay at the foot of the church, the mystical sound of music filled the square. When I finally opened my eyes, I saw the belly dancer dancing in front of me. The transformation by the sacred feminine was complete. I had been resurrected. The festival closed with an evening filled with the spectacle of fire. In many ancient cultures, fire was the element that demanded constant tending, a living presence that symbolized spirit, love, light, direction, persistence, and danger. The performance danced with the flames, hypnotic in their movements. Then, suddenly, a freak accident broke the spell. One of the jugglers lost control of a ball of fire. It snapped loose from its metal contraption and flew into the crowd. For a breathless instant, the square froze, and then, as if guided by divine hands, instead of the audience, it struck the Christian cross that stands at the edge of the Lourosa square. It bounced off back into the handler's hands, and the show continued. What could have been a disaster had turned into a moment of strange, sacred protection. In my head, the moment the fire hit the cross, it registered as an instant drumbeat of meaning, as if time itself had folded inward for a moment, and the air thickened with a reverse echo of the unheard, a sinister omen to a future I could not yet see. Please take a moment to hydrate yourself with the vibration of love and gratitude by visiting our sponsors, Blue Earth Innovations, and using the code ParadigmShift. And if this video spoke to you, give it a like, subscribe, share, and comment. It really helps out the show for the algorithm. With all of that said, we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.